Okay, do a little couple of quick bookkeeping on the audio here, make sure things aren't messed up.
Okay.
Cool.
A couple of quick bookkeeping.
So, this may be a little choppy. Hopefully it uploads to YouTube a little bit better than that afterwards. If there's any questions, obviously contacting me using Facebook, using our Discord server, which is located on the Gamebox Video Games and Comics webpage. You can find it there. It's called Hidden Terra. Will be very important. What I'm going to be talking about a little bit is the Dungeon Combat League, or DCL. What the DCL is it's kind of taking an idea from another person's kind of competitive Dungeons and Dragons thing that they created. It was like a MOBA of a kind where you had 2 teams of 4. In this instance, it's going to be up to 4 teams of 2. So, be a little different from that. All the rules are located on the Gamebox Video Games and Comics webpage. It's pretty easy to get to as far as that's concerned. Let me see about where that is. Let's see. Throw a link up in the chat for everyone here. So what this is just kind of like an opportunity for people to, if they want to, ask some questions. If people don't ask questions, that's completely and totally fine. I'm going to briefly talk about just what it is and kind of the things to anticipate for this going forward. Here's a link in the chat. So what has happened here is, for Friday nights, we haven't really had much action for Friday Night Magic, so we needed to try to find a way to give people something that they were looking to do. And Dungeons and Dragons has been really popular in the shop, and this is a great opportunity for people to get better at the one thing that is the most difficult thing for Dungeons and Dragons, which isn't really role playing. It's really, as far as I'm concerned, pretty easy to do. It's the learning all the math and everything like that. And for all the people that are really good at that stuff, as far as like, character building and tracking combat and all that other crazy crap, this is a great opportunity for them to kind of just kind of shine. So it's a seasons-based system, which is discussed in the document. We'll go over that a little bit. Where it's like every 2 months you're gonna, if you kept your character going from one season to the next, your character will get an opportunity to level up, or you would be building a character all new at a higher level at the end of the 2-month season. So that right there is important. The other things that are kind of important to note are that there are certain things that you have to have. Like, you have to have a copy of your player's handbook. It's just a requirement. We are, after all, I hate to say this, we are a store, and we do want to try to find ways to make sure that players are going to be able to keep playing here. So part of that is making sure that, we can try to find a way to sell you some product. People that are members of the Dungeon Combat League, what we'll do is we'll also offer them a enhanced bonus to their points program. For anything that you buy that's Dungeons and Dragons or Dungeon Combat League related, you'll get an additional 10% points, I believe, on your points card. So like if you spend $50 in a player's handbook, you get 55 points instead of 50. So it's not a huge thing, but it's definitely something to kind of help you stack up a little bit. And as seasons go on, we're going to have, add in more books and things like that. So that way you can kind of, maybe be like, okay, cool, I want to do something out of, Xanthar's Guide to Everything, that's going to be in this maybe season 3. That's not canon yet. I'm just saying an idea. But that's what it would look like. So let's get into a little bit of what it really is. So it's a combat league. The important things to note is the fact that it's really tight with a rule set. So I'll go over the match play rules from what I've written here, which is the initial outline from what the Dungeon Combat League stuff was. Matches will have up to 4 teams of 2, so now you don't have to have a partner. You can show up kind of by yourself. There's no reason why you can't, and just kind of pick up and go as needed. Games are going to last for an hour, so that way it's an hour for the round, and then that's not including like the DM having to set everything up and everything like that. It's an hour. That way we can get in 2 or 3 rounds in the course of a night, so that way players can get more points, maybe some more gear, more money, and things like that. You're not going to be getting experience in traditional ways in this. It's going to be very similar to how they would do experience with I think it's called it's the one where the DM just awards you at a level. I can't remember the name of the type. It literally escapes my brain right now. I'm right there, not remembering. The is that the right one? Okay. Let's see. Player turns are going to be timed, so this is an important thing to kind of know, and this is a thing that actually is really a good idea for maybe DMs to carry into their regular D&D games if they're sitting down and playing on a tabletop. Is that you're going to have 45 seconds for your turn. That means that you are going to have 45 seconds on like a little egg timer, hourglass, to declare what your action is going to be. A declared action is, for example, saying, I am going to run down this hallway my 30 feet, and then I'm going to attack that guy with flurry of blows, and then and then try to disengage. I have 45 seconds to declare that action, and then after that action is declared, then the Dungeon Master and me will go through and resolve that action. That action is outside of the 45 seconds. So that right there is one way to ensure that players are A, paying attention, fingers in the right way, A, paying attention, and B, that they really, really have to learn to commit to what they're doing. You can't back out of an action. Once you say you're done it, you're done it. It'll make play really, really hectic. It'll make it so it seems much more insistent, and it'll make it so it's also at the same time much more kind of thematic with the idea of kind of like a tabletop MOBA as far as that's concerned. The next thing on the list is players must have painted miniatures. Painted miniatures consist of a base color, base coat, shade, and highlight. If you look for Battle Ready from Games Workshop, it'll tell you what that means. And pre-painted miniatures are fine. The reason for this is the fact that it also shows, again, where this is a competitive thing and players are going to be showing up and doing something competitive. This shows that they have made the investment for time, and also, they can buy a miniature and things like that in the shop, so that way players can, have copies of their stuff. It's kind of nice to be able to say to somebody like, this is what we're doing, this is what I'd like to do, or this is how I'd like it to look. And showing people kind of how to paint and things like that is also really kind of fun too. So we can do that as well. The next thing is players must have a copy of all their source material and have it present at the match. So that means in the first season that you have to have your player's handbook. Just straight up. If you don't have your player's handbook, sorry, you're not playing that round. It's just the way it is. We want to make sure that people have their materials. We want to make sure that people know the rules. We want to make sure that people can kind of learn with each other and that they don't have to wonder. And that's pretty important. And again, we're a store. We want to sell product. So doing it every couple of months gives people more than enough time to be able to try to, back into the things that they need. Players must have their own dice. Again, we sell dice. It's not hard. You need only one set. Character sheets being turned in. There is a thing, so that way I can make sure that your character is only using the materials that are appropriate. It also makes tracking for me better as far as what your character has and earned, because some certain resources will be tracked, and also your top dogs you get an opportunity to kind of like kick them down a little bit, stuff like that, if you can see what they're doing. So that's kind of cool. Let's see, what else we got. Character creation will follow. Does that include player digital copies such as D&D Beyond? No need for needing the player's handbook. That's a good question, Andrew. So if you can show that you have a copy of it through D&D Beyond, that's fine. I'm not going to say no to that. It's just that you have to have access to that stuff. I would much rather have a physical copy because it's a lot easier for you to reference, in my mind, but I'm not going to 100% say no. Just because I don't need to be that guy. So yeah, no, D&D Beyond will be fine as far as that's concerned. In getting me the information from D&D Beyond, using that to build your character sheet will be actually a lot better. So there's a good idea. Let's see. Character creation will follow the DCL character creation rules. So there is that we're going to be using a points buy system as opposed to the standard array. So normal points buy system is 27 points, I believe, or 25 or something like that. And we're going to be doing 30. So it means that you don't have, if you wanted to, you wouldn't have to have a dump stat. You can do I think 2 16s, a bunch of 13, a couple 13, a couple of 10s. In the DCL web page, there's I think I wrote down what page it is that the points buy system is listed. There's also a whole bevy of websites out there that can help you do the calculation for points buy system, and I know D&D Beyond will let you do that as well. The reason why we're doing a points buy system and not the standard array is the fact that it means that you can create a character that's ultra tanky and crazy and crap like that, but at the same time, where this is a competitive environment, this gives you more of an opportunity to really kind of tune into what you want to do. And I just like the idea of points buy for something competitive, as opposed to having everyone being kind of we all have the same stats, they're just different. Instead, it's I could make somebody that's got a piss poor constitution, is like a 5 or a 6 in constitution, but is really dexterous and they're a glass cannon. So that's kind of fun. Ammo and other consumables are tracked. It's 100% true, and it has to be tracked because it makes it so that way it adds more weight to the value of gold for some classes, or even if you're a person that's going to start purchasing health potions because you built that glass cannon and you want to make sure that you don't die. So that's really, really important. Tracking arrows and stuff like that, it becomes a little bit of a pain in the ass and maybe almost a little bit too much bookkeeping. But that's fine because I have ways to do all that digitally, and I can verify the information from my backup to your character sheet to see if you're correct or if I'm correct, and if they don't jive, then I make it jive. So that's kind of cool. Variant encumbrance is being used. This is on page 176. So the importance of variant encumbrance is the fact that if you are at a heavy load, which is 5 times your strength score and weight, you lose 10 feet of speed. So it can be a pretty big thing when you're trying to get from one area of the arena to the other. There are definitely times in which you're going to be trapped in one corner of the map, and you want to get to the center so that way you can get to maybe an area that's like a hold room where you also heal at the same time, or if you want to try to get back to your team spawn point to maybe try to heal up a little bit or something like that. There's all kinds of things that are going to happen in the map. We'll talk about that more when we get closer to the actual event date. But encumbrance is a big deal. You don't have to take everything with you. What your character owns is what they own. So if you have multiple weapons and you are saying, well, hey, I'm going to team up with the rogue, and the rogue that I'm teaming up with is an archery rogue, and I'm a cleric and I do a lot of buffing, so I'm going to take I'm going to go sword and board as opposed to going with the The pole arm that I was doing is kind of hard to use the pole arm and the shield at the same time. So I go with the sword and shield, and I can carry the shield around. So I don't have to carry the pole arm. I save a little bit of weight. That's good for the portion of this. Players may only use the source materials from the current season. That's listed in Season 1. Season 1's Player's Handbook. Only Player's Handbook. The reason why it's important for people to have copies of the source material that they plan on using is the fact that they can then say, this feat was in this book and on this page. And if somebody has a question, they can say something about it, and they can give them the page reference, or they can have a bookmark and they can instantly open the book and be like, this is what it is. It's really, really super important to have your materials with you. So that way, if anyone ever has a question, especially when you're going to come across spellcasters and stuff like that, and if it takes too long for someone to resolve something, that's going to be a real pain in the butt. I'm not going to require spellcasters to own copies of the spell card decks. I think that right there is a choice. If you own the spell card decks, it means that you have your materials better prepared for yourself, meaning that you have less work to do in your 45 seconds for declaring your action. So that's the thing to consider. Even the combat characters that have like skills and stuff like that, like a skill deck, they're really, really helpful for them. So it's a good thing to kind of keep in mind. Sportsmanship is important. It's the next thing on the list. And it's right on the first page, right on the website for the DCL handbook. If you are a terrible person, I'm going to call you out, and then I'm going to make you go home for the night. Racist, bigoted, sexist, anything derogatory, anything that's classist, ableist. Keep your politics at home. I keep my politics at home. I'm going to expect you guys to do the exact same things that I do. You're here to roll dice and kill each other. You're not in fantasy world. You're not here to do it in the real world. So just be kind. It's a 2-strike system. First strike, you go home for the night. Second strike, you're dead. You're done for the season. And then you can try again in the next season. If you want to argue it, don't argue it at the session. If you argue with me at the session about me telling you that you're done for the night, or the dungeon master for that session telling you that you're done for the night, you will just not be invited back to play. Just straight up. It's not that we can't be talked to or reasoned with or worked with or anything like that. It's just the fact that the minute you start trying to prove that you're right on something with a bunch of people around, it just complicates everything. So just, hold it to yourself. And if the dungeon master or myself ever has to, like, hey, you're done for the night, we're going to do it in a way in which it's going to, be private. We're not going to try to embarrass you and make you look like a terrible person in front of your peers. It's going to be, very respectful. So, we would expect you to do the same thing and to talk about these issues afterwards. Players using the same character from match to match during the season. You just keep going if you want to. If you don't like that character, you can scrap it, kill your character, and then the next session, you can start with a new character. So if you realize that your concept for a mounted sorcerer that specializes in the sling is not good, you can be like, I made a mistake, and I'm going to scrap this and start all over again. Like, you can, play out the rest of the night if you wanted to, have some fun, roll some dice and stuff like that. But, you can just like, hey, Graydon, I'm going to kill this character off, and I'm going to have another character for the next session. I will know that definitely by when you send in your character sheet the Thursday night prior to the session. I'll be like, hey, your character's different. Cool. All right. So this is your new character. The other one's going to get deleted and is gone. You can go back to it, but you can go back to that character at base level 4 for the season, or base, with starting gear, none of your old gear. When you roll into a new character, your old character goes away. That way you're not like sitting on like 3 or 4 characters, in your back pocket. Because this is a player system where, like, it's player skill and everything like that. That's where we're going to support, you have one character and you're just going to keep running with it. So in the actual character creation rules of the document, Players can only create characters using the supplements. We discussed that. The supplements are the player's handbook. Players will assign attributes using the points by system on page 15. We talked about that as well. Again, that's, you have 30 points to basically build your stats. I think it's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it goes like 5, 9, and up from there to like go past, I think the base stat is 8. But it's listed on page 15 of the player's handbook. You get any of your default gear for your class as if it was at first level. That does not include gold. Gold is just washed out, which is discussed a little further down. So like if your character can take, a long sword and light armor and short bow, you have that. If you get like an explorer's pack and all other stuff, go ahead and take it. I mean, like, you can't sell it, but you have the gear. And we'll talk about closer to the event what the actual like marketplace looks like and things like that for characters to be able to buy, sell, trade, swap, move gear around, stuff like that. And also like player-to-player trading of items and gear and things like that, and how that looks. I'm kind of working on an idea for that, and I think it'll be it'll be a good physical way for players to be able to understand what their characters have. Characters have an amount of gold equal to the gold dictated by the DCL season. So in season 1, your 4th level character has 200 gold. Just straight up. 200 gold is more than enough for you to be able to make something kind of scary and maybe grab a healing potion at the same time. You will not be able to buy, full plate. Gold is not communal. You cannot get gold character and use that to buy gear for yourself. So there was a person that asked that. It's like, hey, if my buddy makes a character and they just give me their character's 200 gold and they kill it and they make another character, and like, I could stack up gold all day. I'm like, no, it's not how that's going to work. You have the gold to be able to buy your gear, and then we'll talk more about how transference of items and things like that with the marketplace works later on. It's not a fully flushed out idea for me to be able to talk about right now, but it will be a thing that we will have. Let's see where else we're at.